All right, y'all. So here's what's happening tonight. This is the last week of our series on 180. So, does anybody remember what 180 means? Turning your life around. Turn around every now and then. That's all I know. So then I start mumbling. So the first week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about sin. We talked about kind of why we need to have our lives turned around. Because in the Bible, in Matthew chapter 7, I believe it was, whenever Jesus is talking, he talks about the highway and he talks about the narrow road. And he says the highway leads to hell. And that's kind of the way by default. Because we live in a broken world. We're all born broken. And that's kind of the path we're heading on. But there's another path, a narrow path, that it says is hard. And that few will find it. But it's finding that path. It's having that hope for another alternative, for another ending to our story. Or another, yeah, that works. That's where the 180 comes in. So part of having this 180 moment, I know for a lot of us in this room, like we began that relationship with Christ, we've had a 180 in our lives, and we have this responsibility as Christians. When we have a 180 moment in our life, we have a responsibility to share our story. And so Matthew had a really cool moment, I guess this year. I'm not going to give too many details, but he's going to share with us a little bit tonight about his 180 story. So Matthew, the floor is yours.
Okay. So, my name is Matthew. Yep. Like
Hi, Matthew.
It's nice to meet you, Matthew.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you familiar?
Am I familiar? No, I haven't been here before. Okay, so Byron asked me to talk about my 180 moment. So I was just going to give you guys a little bit of background on, like, leading up to it, like, everything that led up to the moment. And then what's happened afterwards, to give you guys kind of like an idea of what it's been like for me. So I guess it's just a good place to start is I grew up in the church, and I came here every Sunday. I came to youth group. I went to church with my parents. I've been coming here since I couldn't walk. I couldn't even walk yet, and I was coming here. So I guess it was just another thing for me to do at that time. I didn't really understand the significance of it. And it was just like another thing in my life, like I guess school almost. But it was obviously a lot better than school because we weren't like in a classroom. So, so it was just like another thing in my life that I was doing. And then, well, I've been going to like Bayshore, and I had a friend invite me to Lake Ann Camp. I don't know if you guys... I think we were supposed to go there at one point, but that got canceled because...
Stuff happened.
Okay, stuff happened. So I got invited to Lake Ann Camp, and I got there, and the first few days were pretty normal, like Bayshore, everybody... But this camp, like, from the get-go, I could tell something was a little different because everybody seemed like they wanted you to be there, and... There was like this, everybody was just working towards the same thing, and they were all working to get you closer to God. And that was really crazy for me to see because I don't think before that I'd honestly ever been in an environment where everybody was collectively trying to get you to know God better. And I think by Wednesday, that kind of took its toll on me. And when the speaker was a guy who was 75, and he got saved at Lake Ann when he was 14, and he's been going back there ever since. And he eventually got a job there, and he started preaching there, which was really cool for me to hear. And he was preaching this message about salvation and how we're chosen. And I don't know why it never really clicked with me before, but when he was just talking about that, you could see that he was starting to get emotional. He was stuttering a little bit, and he was starting to have tears in his eyes, and everybody in the crowd saw it. And he started crying, and I honestly, before that, I'd never seen a guy that old cry. So I didn't really know what to think, and that was kind of my moment when he started crying. Everything kind of like came together, and I started to realize that, oh, there's something more. Like there's a significance. There's something more than all that I've ever known before. There's something greater, something that I never even thought of before. And that was really crazy to me to know that I had the God of the universe on my side. And it's changed my life for the better. And it's a lot, almost too much to explain, but I guess what I want you guys to know is that he loves you. And even if you don't know him yet, then he's always accepting of you, and he'll never turn you away. And that was the biggest thing for me, is like the guy that created everything, like everything that we can see, everything that we can hear, everything that we can't see is just around us because of him. And knowing that he loves us and he's chosen us to live with him forever, that was just really crazy to me. And so the night after chapel, the chapel there is pretty interesting. They got the whole campground in one central area, and then the chapel is kind of like down this little path tucked in the woods. It's a big church area, but it's tucked in the woods, so you got trees on both sides. And I was coming back up the pathway after I found out that I was saved, and I was crying my eyes out because I was so happy. And I stopped for a second. I was like, oh, should I be embarrassed of this because there's all these kids around me? And I thought about it, and I said no, because I have something greater, and I should be really happy about that. And yeah, it was that night. I also found out that one of the kids in our cabin snores really loud. I didn't sleep that night, but I just had this sense of peace that I was going to be okay. And I actually slept in the bathroom of the cabin that night.
You survived?
Because that was it. I'm pretty sure I did. I slept in the bathroom of the cabin because that was the only place I couldn't hear him snoring. And I had the window open, and I caught a cold that night. And so the rest of the week at camp was kind of miserable. But I mean, that was still the greatest week of my life by far. I mean, I heard the greatest thing that I've ever heard before, that suddenly I have this thing that I want to tell everybody because I want them to know how I felt. So, yeah, that's my 180 story. It was really crazy. That was probably the best moment of my life to know that, and I'd like everybody else to have that experience.
So, like, I can distinctly remember, I'm pretty sure it was that Sunday after camp, and like I was talking to you that Sunday morning at church, and like it was obvious, like you were, like, not that you're not the most expressive person ever, but you're not super expressive, but you were clearly, like, there was like an excitement within you that day. That you can't see all the time. Yeah, something was different. But sometimes you have those moments that are so incredible, but then you come back to the real world. What has it been like? I mean, now you're basically at the end of the first trimester of school. What has it been like going from that high experience, that 180 moment, to then coming back to the real world, to coming back to school? How has that transition been?
So one of the big things that the speaker there, he tried to prepare us for is, I think the last 2 days that he was talking to us, I think it was we only had a chapel at night. And the last 2 days that he was talking to us, he was trying to prepare us to live in the real world after our experiences at Lake Ann, because it's honestly a totally different place. And he was trying to prepare us to live in the real world. He was telling us to not conform. Like, if you know something's wrong, then don't go do it, because that makes God sad. And I mean, that's not something I really want to do. And it's just been really interesting to I feel like I have like a new conscience over my shoulder. Like I feel like I can tell now when I shouldn't be doing things, and that's just crazy to me. Like, that I've never noticed that before, and I'm a lot less quick to just jump into something. Actually, I think about stuff now. So yeah, it's been really cool since then. I mean, there's definitely been some divots in the road, but divots have another side that we can go right back up. And I think, honestly, if God puts us in a situation, he's going to give us a way out of it if we're not meant to be there. So, yep.
So, kind of along the same lines, last question. what has it been like now that you've had that moment? You see the difference that you talked about. You kind of see the difference between like right and wrong, and like there's certain things you probably shouldn't do. What is it like going into like your school settings? Everybody in this room is either schooled or homeschooled or interacts with just people your age. What is it like now being a Christian going into those environments?
Yeah, as kind of like what I said before, it's like you didn't even notice, like you thought your friends were like good people, but you start to see the faults in them, and you know that they need God too. Like everybody needs God because He's the only one that can forgive you for those faults. So, I mean, I've been reading a lot about like how to be a good example for your friends. Like even if they, like some of my friends, for example, I tell them to come here, or I ask them to come here and to youth group because I know they'll get something out of it. But they just say that that's not their thing. But I think the biggest challenge for me has been keeping working at them. Like you can't drop something. I think that's been the biggest challenge for me is working on them to try to get them to come to know God. So it's a lot harder than what they say at camp.
Mm-hmm.
Whole different scenario setting kind of area. So.
All right. Then any last words of wisdom or anything else you've thought of as you're speaking that you want to say before we wrap it up? And it's okay if not. go like Lake Ann is a cool campground.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. So if you ever get the chance to go there, or there's this place, I think it's called like Winter Retreat or something. That's a pretty cool place too. New Life Camp is a pretty cool place. So
Do it.
Yep. I guess whenever you have the chance, just remember that God's always there for you, and He's never going to let you go. Yeah. So that's been my experience so far.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. All right. So here's the deal. I was super excited whenever Matthew said he wanted to share his story, and I was glad he was willing to do this because honestly, it's terrifying to talk in front of people. I still get sweaty and gross whenever I do it. It's really fun. So Matthew, you did a great job.
I'm very sweaty.
Right? You should, yeah. But here's the deal, though. Like, this is why we do what we do. Like, here at 180, we truly do believe that, like, we're not just here and then we die and it's over. Like Pastor Randy even talked about this morning. Like, we believe there's something beyond this. We believe that there is a God that loves you, that wants to know you, that wants to be in a relationship with you. We'll take questions in just a second. And so that's why we do what we do. Like, we want you guys to know this God. We want you to have this 180 moment like Matthew talked about, because you don't have to go through this world alone. We know the world is broken. Like, we know that life is hard, but you don't have to go through this alone. Even in the middle of the hardest moments of life, there's a God that loves you and wants to walk alongside you in those moments. So, like I said, I think last week and probably even the week before, if you don't have a relationship with God, but it's something that you either want to know about or maybe you're ready for, talk to your small group leader. We're going to go to small groups. I believe we still got a couple minutes here. What time is? Oh, yeah, we got time. Yeah. So we're going to go to small groups, and we're probably not going to have a ton to talk about tonight, but what I want you to talk about in your small groups tonight are like, what did you, from listening to Matthew's story, like what did you learn about God and what did you learn about yourself in that story? And if you want to have that conversation with a leader, talk to one of your leaders tonight because they would love to pray with you and help you kind of get started and give you more information on that. But we're going to pray right now, and then we're going to go to our small groups. Dear God, I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you for Matthew and just his willingness and his courage to share his story. God, I thank you for the way that you broke through with him at Lake Ann and that you gave him this 180 moment where he just realized how much you love him and that he began this relationship with you. God, for anyone in this room that hasn't done that yet, if there's a curiosity that's there, if they want to know more, or if they're ready to take a step, God, I pray that you would help them to be bold and brave enough to talk to a leader tonight, to take that step. Because God, this is just one of the most incredible things, one of the best decisions we could ever make with our lives. So God, I pray that you just be with us as we go to our small groups, guide our conversations, help us to be open and honest with both ourselves and each other. We pray that you just use that time to draw us closer to you. In your name, amen.